वेलकम टू RCI's नवशिखर चैनल। आप सभी का RCI नवशिखर चैनल में स्वागत है। We are back with a new teleconference, a new topic and a new expert today. I, Anna Gupta, welcome you for a new teleconference. आज के हमारे कॉन्फ्रेंस का टॉपिक है Definition, Concept and Understanding Disability, Impairment and Handicap, its Prevalence and Incidence. And to adapt this topic, we have with us today Dr. Himanshu Das. He is the Senior Consultant at NCDS, IGNU, and also the President of Society for Advanced Studies in Rehabilitation. Welcome to RCI, sir. So moving on to the topic, definition, concept and understanding the disability, impairment and handicap, the three terms, its incidence and prevalence. We'll discuss about it, but for the information of our viewers, if you have any queries, questions or if you want to share anything with us, you can contact us on our toll-free number 1800-11-2008. Our phone number is 265-11613 and our fax number is 265-11609. In case you can email us, our email ID is rehabstd, that is rehabstd @ndc.vsnl.net.in. You can also log on to our website www.rehabcouncil, rehabcouncil.nic.in. Moving on to the topic, sir, as the topic says for today, the definition, concept, understanding, basically an overview of the three terms disability, impairment and handicap. How would you like to start with us?
Firstly, I'd like to submit that of all levels of RCI programs, starting from the foundation course that we have through distance mode and through online mode today, to all our bachelor's and master's level program, this particular topic has been a part of the core curriculum across all the disabilities, across all the programs of RCI. However, the most frequently used these three words have always been misused and misunderstood by our learners as well as stakeholders involved in the field of disability. So today we would like to go beyond the formal parameters and try to discuss these definitions from different perspectives. Hopefully learners should understand and clarify all their doubts through this teleconference today.
So as we're talking about this definition and all, would you like to tell our viewers what is the definition, widely accepted definition for these terms, disability?
We have WHO programs. WHO has given us very nice definitions, but I would also like to tell our learners that in due course of time, as and when we are getting different schools of thoughts coming into us, we have today ICF, International Classification of Functioning, coming up. We have guidelines of UNCRPD, United Nations Convention of Persons with Disabilities. So whatever definitions we are talking about are borderlines of WHO's, or for that matter, sometimes we also get certain input from different associations and organizations of different countries. Our country as such, we do not have segregated all these three aspects as far as our PWD Act or National Trust Acts are concerned. We'll go by the formal definitions that we have today. Let us now try to understand the concepts that we are being given through the WHO mechanism. First is the concept of a disease, the response to illness, pathological phenomenon unrelated to the ill individual. Secondly, impairment, any loss or abnormality of psychological, physiological or anatomical structure or functions. Disability, any restriction or lack resulting from an impairment of ability to perform an activity in the manner or within the range considered normal for a human being. And handicap is a disadvantage from a given individual that limits or prevents the fulfillment of a role that is normal. Now, if you look at this, primarily the three definitions that we are looking for, impairment, when you are trying to understand the word impairment, you will get it has got to do something with the biological nature of the person. They are trying to talk of something which is a loss, something which is missing, or there is some problem with the basic physiological or basic anatomical aspect of the person, which may be psychological or which may be physiological in nature. The moment you try to shift your parameters to the word disability, they are trying to talk of the function of the organ that you are talking of being affected. For example, you have your hand functions getting affected. So that function now you are trying to relate to normal functioning of a human being of that organ, and then you are trying to say whether that particular function is okay or it has got some problem. Third, when you are coming up to the word handicap, then further all these functional deficits or limitations that we are talking of, we are relating with the duties, responsibilities, social norms of a particular society which we are bound to perform. So these three, although however linked, but cannot be totally correlated to each other. However, as per these definitions, if you try to observe, impairment will lead to disability, and disability will eventually lead to handicapness.
So like we're talking about these definitions, so they have like year by year the changes have been made in the definitions. Like there are students as our viewers, what would you advise them to, which definition is most, the current one or the one that was first written?
Definition as such, we do not advise people to mug up the definitions of impairment, disability and handicap. For that matter, in fact, definition of disabilities as well, because definition of disabilities also across every country you will find different definitions, number one. Number two, in respect to a country also, if you are having 2 or 3 acts, every act will define definition in its own perspective. So definitions are to be learned in reference to a particular act or a particular concept that you are trying to learn. As such, globally, these 3 words, impairment, disability and handicap, are not to be mucked up, but they are to be understood in its true perspective. And while understanding, even if you remember just 3 words, they may suffice your need. Impairment word, you can relate the word to biology, to your body. And the disability word, you can relate the word to functions of the organs of your body. And handicap word, you can relate to society or societal norms. So just by understanding or relating these 3 words to the 3 definitions that we are talking about, you can talk of different examples. While in your examinations also, your examiners would be more than happy if you can talk of certain examples where you are able to say at this particular position this person is having this particular impairment, followed by a particular organ getting affected and the organ function getting affected, and the organ is not able to perform as far a normal human being's range of that particular organ system functioning. And the third would be the person not able to perform as per societal demands. If you can put up an example stating all these 3 compartments in a separate way, then I think the examiners would be more than happy.
So it's more of the understanding, it's about understanding the concept rather than mugging up the definition that works.
Yeah, sure. That's why you don't see today, if you study ICF classification, or today you try to study on UNCRPD, you don't see all these terms at all. In fact, very lately you will be having these slides coming in. Today, globally, handicap term is not in fact used. So these words are getting gradually closed up today, and there will be a time when you will not see all these terminologies coming up. Today we are having a paradigm shift from the medical model to the social model. So largely we have come a long way, and once we achieve the social model thoroughly, then you would not see all these words coming up in fact.
So what more do we have?
We'd now try to see certain examples and try to understand more about segregating these 3 components. First, let us try to see example of one of the child, Daya. He is a 4-year-old, has a form of cerebral palsy, that's a neurological disorder, CP, and this particular child is having spastic diplegia. Daya's CP causes his legs to be stiff, tight and difficult to move. He cannot stand or walk. Now when you talk of impairment in this particular child, the inability to move his legs at the joints, inability to bear weight at the feet, abnormality of the contracted muscles of the legs, imbalanced muscle contraction over a period of time causing hip dislocation or deformed bone growth, so on and so forth. If you try to see the first component, you would see we're talking of the body's anatomy and things like that. So that part we are trying to talk of impairment in the person. Second part, when you are trying to talk of the word disability, it's the inability of the child, they are in question, to walk or do activities requiring leg functions. Now if you talk of handicapping conditions, then Daya is getting prevented from fulfilling a normal role at home, at school, or in the community. And more so when you will involve Daya in physical activities, sports activities, and other activities, you will find the child is having much more problem in performing as per the social norms or social demands. That's how you can segregate these three components. Take up any example. You can even start with some funny examples. You have a lion in a zoo, and the lion is having some forms of neurological impairment in its limb. The lion is having some bone deformity, the lion is having some muscle contractions, the lion is having some injury, so on and so forth. All these aspects, whenever you are trying to explain, you are trying to talk of impairment in the lion. Now, disability, the lion is not able to run or move its limb properly, or doesn't have power in its limb to grasp something. You are talking of disability in the lion. The moment you now talk of lion's performance in a jungle, this lion is not able to run and catch a prey, the lion is not able to feed its young ones, this lion is not able to protect itself. You are talking of the term handicap. Now here we are trying to cut short a little, in a sense that now putting this lion, let us not take this up in a ethical way, but whenever you are trying to put this lion up in a jungle with other lions, this lion is handicapped. Now let this lion come and become part of Delhi Zoo. What would remain with this lion? This lion will still remain impaired, this lion will still remain disabled, but would this lion remain handicapped in Delhi Zoo? No, because no lions in Delhi Zoo is required to jump, catch a prey, or protect itself. They are already getting protected. That's how you need to understand and segregate all these definitions.
So can we say that impairment, disability, and handicap, these are the 3 degrees, impairment being the degree 1, then the severe one is disability, and even more severe is handicap?
Not really. Severity will be there in all the 3 units. Impairment can be at mild and moderate level, and also at severity level. Disability can also be at mild or severe level. Handicappedness can also be at mild or severe level. However, what we are trying to talk here is an impairment will lead to a disability, and society will now decide whether a person will remain handicapped or not. So impairment and disability will go hand in hand. Impairment will lead to disability, or for that matter, disability in a person will lead to further impairment in a person in terms of the actions or the functions of the organism. But handicappedness would be a straightaway social domain. It has got nothing to do with the disability in the person. Like you and me, if we go today to Japan, I don't know Japanese language as such, so we become immediately handicapped as far as social communication is concerned. Your status will be exactly the same of a DHH person, that is deaf and hearing handicapped person. So similarly today, if you are taken to village of Assam, you would exactly fall into the category of learning disability, because you don't know how to read and write Assamese. But that's how handicappedness is a social domain. But disability and impairment are some sort of components which are largely very interrelated. The medical model would try to intervene on the impairment aspect much more. Early intervention would try to impact much more on the impairment part, but disability is the area wherein our domains as special educators or as rehab professionals would mostly begin with.
So like we talk about, impairment leads to disability, disability leads to handicap. So what are the things that can be done to avoid this word leads?
Early intervention. Let's see, in our country the problem is we don't have a proper system wherein we are able to screen children with disabilities early, or for that matter screen impairments early. So the moment you are able to have a very good screening mechanism, a very good early screening mechanism, followed by a very good early intervention mechanism, certainly the impact or the severity of impairment would reduce. The moment you are intervening on the severity of impairment, definitely uh, the severity of disability would definitely reduce. So we have primary preventions, we have secondary prevention, we have tertiary prevention. We have lot of cases wherein we know that a particular impairment has given rise to another impairment, and 2-3 impairments has combined together, and at a later stage the person has become multiple disabled. So we have lot of instances where one impairment not being taken care of, the severity of that impairment has gone up, and in additionally we have seen lot of cases wherein we have other impairments joining it up, and at the end of the day we have such people with multiple disabilities level. So today we are trying to talk of, we are trying to focus more on early screening, early intervention. Even we have today surgery, which I am not very sure these things are popularly available in our hospitals or not, but we have even gone to the extent of fetal surgery. We can today screen a fetus at the womb of a mother and then identify some form of disorders, and we know this particular disorder may have to be terminated. So we may opt for a termination of the fetus, or in certain cases we have early intervention mechanism inside the womb of a person in terms of stimulation programs specially meant for inside womb babies, and then also we have fetal surgery available. So that kind of intervention we are talking of when we are trying to deal with impairments. And certainly when you talk of disability, yes, a lot is being done today. However, the question lies, what is our age of identification of these children? So with growing awareness in the field of disability, or with growing manpower in the field of disability, we hope the age of identification would reduce. Once the age of identification reduces, then both these two, the impact and the severity of disability and impairment, would certainly be reduced.
Okay, so like we're talking about the level and what can be done, when can be done. So, sir, when we're talking about all this, what are the different kinds of impairments that can be there in the society?
Okay, every associations or organizations would try to sort of classify them in different manners. However, we have some international classification format. We'd like to take a look at them. First one is impairment of intellectual ability, which normally we refer to as mental retardation. Second is other psychological impairments. Normally we would like to refer to them as emotionally disturbed or mental illnesses and so on and so forth. Then impairment of language and wording. Then hearing impairment, visual impairment, organs impairment, bone impairment, scarring and aesthetic impairments. This is more of burn cases and other such cases. Generalized impairments, sensory and other kind. Behavioral disability, disability of communication, disability in caring for oneself, disability of movement, disability due to body assets, disability of dexterity, disability of circumstance, disability within specific activity, other restrictions to ability. So we have a lot of segments wherein we are trying to sort of segregate different impairments and disability. Primarily for a global understanding, they have been divided into various psychological formats, various physical formats, and then various sensory formats. So in the psychological formats, you have intellectual is one part, then you have other psychological parameters one part. In the physical, you have bones, you have muscles, you have movements, you have scars or aesthetics of your face or body. Then you have sensory part. Sensory part would include maybe your vision, hearing, or for that matter use of or integration of different senses. And in all these things may be combined together to have general class of impairments.
So similarly, sir, do we have any types of handicap also?
Yes, international classification would define handicap as under. Let us have a look. Handicap of orientation. Orientation here is sort of a person being at home and being able to know where he is or where his belongings are, what is the spatial position of the person and things like that. Handicap of physical independence, normally we try to understand them as orthopedic disabilities or locomotor disabilities or cerebral palsy. Handicap of mobility, occupational handicaps, this refers to job. Handicap in social integration, handicap in economic self-sufficiency, other handicaps. Now if you try to study these handicaps, nowhere you are able to see the common words that you had been hearing: visual impairment, orthopedic impairment, locomotor impairment, intellectual impairment, so on. But today we are trying to even classify handicap in reference to the function that is getting affected. In your case, the primary function getting affected is mobility, so we are trying to say mobility handicap, not a physically handicapped person. You are having problem in social integration, so we are trying to say social integration handicap. So we are not saying this particular person is mental retardation. We are trying to say this person is not having a social having a social problem, so we say this person is having social integration handicap, so on and so forth. That's how you try to define today handicapness in terms of various functions that is demanded in the society to perform. Maybe one day you will see something like academic handicaps. Fine, at least you are not trying to say the person that you are having a disability. You are trying to say the person is having a functional problem, and that function you are closely relating to the word handicap. So once you do not have the person coming in between, and you are saying some actions or some functions which relates to the society is making the person handicapped, then you have more scope to intervene.
So it's more when you specify for a person, it's even easier for the person to communicate with the society that I only have this specific kind of a handicap problem. I'm not completely as a whole. It's not a problem.
You may have a lot of people who are having a particular disability. Today in our country, we would like to say this person is blind. Now when you say blind, there will be a common tendency: this person is a handicap in so on and so forth, 100 terms. But actually when you meet the person and be with the person, that person might be holding a very good job. If the person is holding a very good job and you are unemployed, how do you say that person is handicapped in terms of occupation? No, that person is holding a very good job. It means that person is not occupationally handicapped. In return, a normal person may be occupationally handicapped. That person is not able to retain a job, not able to hold a job, not able to continue with a job, not able to get promoted in a job. So that's how you are giving the scope to the person with visual impairment, that you may be said handicapped in reference to particular function that you are not able to perform, not as a whole that you are a person and you are visually handicapped and you are not capable of doing these things. That is the paradigm shift today in understanding disability, impairment and handicap.
So as you're saying, sir, can we just say that handicap is a word that has been given by the society rather than by the person?
Yes, definitely yes. Because today you have so many people coming to us every day, to our clinics and to our organizations, learning disability for that matter. Before, for example, 20, 30, 40 years, when you had 50% or for that matter over 60 to 70% of our population illiterate, then this word didn't exist, because society did not have the demand from all the children of the society that everybody must study. Some people studied, rest of the people went on to do different things, did excel in different things. So the society by and large was satisfied that not reading, writing is not a compulsory part of one's life. So it's fine, some people are not studying. Today in the cities you have this level, yes, this person is learning disabled. Similarly, you have to study the different other disabilities. For example, psychological disabilities. You have a lot of psychological disabilities. Now even given a less of a pressurized place, given a routine repetitive kind of a thing, given a less stressful job, we have seen a lot of these people in many sectors are able to get along with the society. There these people are not being labeled as being handicapped. Similarly, you go to different cultures and customs and different places, more you go away from today's civilization, you will see there had been a lot of social acceptance towards disabilities. As a result, they never used to classify a person the way that we are doing today. However, yes, for government norms and government parameters, yes, these things are necessary, but definitely society by and large is responsible. Today, if you go to US, for example, and if you, not only US, any for the developed countries, A person not having one leg or not having one hand is thoroughly 100% independent in doing everything. So there is no question of labeling the person as handicapped. So you have even sports modified for these people, you have cars modified for these people, you have everything modified for these people, and thereby not limiting them to perform. So whenever you are trying to imply the definition given by International Classification of Functioning, when you are now talking what all functions this person not able to do, when you talk of that term, you find lot of these persons with disabilities are able to meet all the functions that other people are doing. The moment you are trying to relate the person with the functions that the person needs to do, then the word handicap is getting reduced.
So like if we talk about these terms that's been given, mobility handicap, learning disability, visual impairment, all these terms, do you think it is good to tag them with this kind of
No, that's how if you look at our presentation, for example, you would not see any of these terms there. You would never see no impairment of no hearing impairment, no visual impairment, no handicap, no disability in terms of all these labels that we are trying to say. Our advice today is, whenever you talk of impairment, disability or handicap, today you refer to the functions only. So it is not about visual disability, it is about mobility disability, it is about orientation problem, it is about maybe reading problem, it is maybe about holding a job problem. We are not saying the person is disabled now. The person is not able to do something, and when I was saying not able to do something, maybe you are leaving a scope with the person that we can do something with that something, that the person may be able to do that something tomorrow. So when the person is able to do something, that thing tomorrow, the person is no longer handicapped in that particular thing that you are talking about. Today you are not able to drive an aeroplane. Similarly, I am visually impaired, I am also not able to drive an aeroplane. Our status today in that particular function is same. You get a different training, you drive a aeroplane, so that particular function you are able to meet. I get a different gadget, I am able to drive the aeroplane, so both of us fall in the same category.
In a very interesting manner, we all are just talking about disability, impairment and handicap. They might be related to each other, but not exactly. They are terms where impairment leads to disability, disability leads to handicap, and all these terms have been given by the society. Somewhere or the other, everybody falls into the same category. We're talking about our topic. We'll continue our discussion after a short break. Hello and welcome to RCI's नवशिका चैनल. Welcome back after the break. ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हम बात कर रहे थे आज के हमारे टॉपिक पर डेफिनेशन, कॉन्सेप्ट एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग द थ्री टर्म्स डिसेबिलिटी, impairment and handicap, or should I say impairment, disability and handicap, its incidence and prevalence. हम बात कर रहे थे डॉक्टर हिमांशु दास के साथ जो हमें बता रहे हैं कि कैसे ये टर्म्स एक सोसाइटी की तरफ से दिए गए हैं एंड it does not matter whether a person falls into this category or not. We need to see the strength of that person and work with that. Till now we've heard about definitions and the concept and different types of impairments, disability and handicap. Now we move on. Sir, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले कि ये सारे जो टर्म्स हैं, अगर मैं किसी एक चीज़ को कर नहीं पाती हूँ, सिमिलरली एक और इंसान है जो माइट बी हियरिंग हैंडीकैप है, वो भी नहीं कर पाता है, तो इट डज नॉट मीन बिकॉज ही इज हियरिंग हैंडीकैप ही इज नॉट एबल टू डू इट. इवन आई एम नॉट एबल टू डू इट. Both of us are handicapped.
Absolutely fine, absolutely fine.
So, but what is the way to change this setup, mind setup of the society as per you? What are the ways? Like awareness has been one, where awareness about different disabilities, different problems in this people face with it. इनके अलावा और क्या-क्या चीज़ें आपको लगता है कर सकते हैं?
बहुत से ज़्यादा चीज़ें करना है. इट इज़ नॉट अबाउट अवेयरनेस, इट्स अबाउट क्रिएटिंग ए इंक्लूसिव सोसाइटी and a life cycle approach to inclusion. Unless you try to create an inclusive society and adopt a life cycle approach for inclusion, and also additionally a cross disability based inclusive approach, that too also for life cycle approach, unless you can adopt all these things, definitely mere talking on awareness programs or mere having a film or mere having a telefilm or mere a poster or a orientation program would not suffice too. We want our population, today's population, to grow with persons having special need from a very early childhood age, study with them throughout their lifetime so that they understand disability not in the perspective of the individual but in the perspective of what are the areas where this person is not able to function. Today if I spend time with a person with visual impairment, gradually I try to realize this particular person. When I was a young kid, I had made friendship with a visually impaired boy for the first time in my school, and this particular child started talking a lot on cricket, and I didn't know anything about cricket. This child was a great cricket fan. Then I realized that there is no difference me being having vision sitting in front of a TV and this particular visually impaired child had never seen the TV at all. That's how when I started dealing with him on a day-to-day basis, he was so independent in functioning all his day-to-day life. He could study well, he could appear exams well, he could perform all the functions that are needed to be done. Then I gradually realized there are very few places where he really needed my help. For example, the first time we went to a bank for filling up a MO form, money order form, or I went to a bank to make some draft or check, those days I used to realize that this person really needed my help. So otherwise this person was fairly independent. For till the time I made friendship with him, I had a different vision altogether, that a blind person is dependent on so many things, he is handicapped, he can't do anything and things like that. That kind of a mindset I grew with because I had never seen a visually impaired person before. That's how today we are asking people to have a inclusive society from the very beginning, at a Anganwadi center, at a ICDS level, nursery schools. We are talking of inclusion today. We are having this RTE coming up, being implemented across the country, wherein we are saying inclusive education for all, cutting across all the severities, cutting across all the disabilities. We are also talking of now inclusive education at higher education level, inclusive education for vocational training and employment, inclusive employment we are trying to talk of now, and inclusive community we are trying to talk of now. So once the next generation would bypass all these stages and phases of life, then automatically we'll see these definitions are being nullified, and people creating their own definition as to what this person cannot do, what this person can do, what these persons are not able to do because we are not able to give them a level playing ground. Third component that I am referring to is very, very important, because these people will be able to do a lot of things provided we are able to give them a level playing ground through curricular adaptation, through assistive devices, through various modifications, through various universal designs. Universal design concept of UNCRPD has been well accepted and well adopted by everybody across the whole globe. So that's how we are trying to say that with coming of ages, you will see different classifications and different understanding of the society altogether towards persons with disabilities.
So there is this saying that why should we modify our environment for one small set of, small group of people who have different needs, for whom we need to change the whole environment? Why should we change it for them rather than looking at the big lot of people who can work very well with the same thing?
You have two set of clarification, two set of philosophy to deal with such mindset of people. The first set of mind is a democratic society or a civil society would never be labeled as a democratic or a civil society if it cannot care or does not care for the disadvantaged. This is the first parameter. Today you have all the norms and system to support the poor, to support the minorities, to support various backward class, backward castes, civil tribes, and so on and so forth. You have different packages altogether for the Northeast region for development. It means the Northeast region requires our support more than any other state. Hence you have 10% of your budget reserved in every ministry for the Northeastern region. So this is the first thing we like to talk about, that any civil society, any democratic society must have a different kind of a parameter of supporting persons in the disadvantaged group. Second aspect is, and which is itself a very, very important thing, is that these persons with disabilities are demanding nothing exceptional, because today if you talk of for example a kind of a vehicle today, in America a lot of our students today are in US being special educators. They call me up in a very, very joking manner कि भैया आपने गाड़ी सिखाया था, यहाँ तो गाड़ियों में गियर ही नहीं है. So the cars with automatic gears, for example, has become a common parameter in developed countries, wherein reducing lot of load on the driver in terms of driving the car. So when you are giving such a car to a person with disability, what extra the person is demanding? No. Today I remember the way you used to cook food. Imagine 20 years back, the way you used to cook food used to be so tiring. Today you have a electric cooker which cooks your food automatically, for example. So similarly, you have a lot of facilities today. You no longer climb a 3-story building today. All of you are using lift today. Similarly, recently I had visited the international airport. So you have so many facilities meant for so many people, and all those facilities had made the life of a normal human being easier. So when you are trying to talk of making our life easier, At the same time, you are talking of making other people's life easier as well. It is not about suiting you and me, it is about suiting all. So with such both this mindset, when you bring in together, definitely you will be there to give a lot of relaxations to people. Today you have examinations, for example, in IGNOU, Indira Gandhi University. I'm not saying persons with disability. Today we have examination system in IGNOU which are objective in nature, which have long question in nature, which are practical in nature. We have on-demand examination today. You want to sit for examination next month, you did not feel like appearing the exam last month, you can apply to Indira Gandhi University and appear your exam today. That kind of openness when we are referring to in education system. Today at Indira Gandhi University system, for that one many university have opted such system. A person who has not done 10th can go in for 12th today in our country, and in certain universities a person who had not done anything 10th or 12th can straight away go in for graduation today. So all these parameters you are opening to everybody, so we are asking for the same parameters to be open for persons with disabilities as well.
So, sir, like we're talking about all this right now, integration of all these terms. What more do you have to tell our viewers about it? Maybe categories of disability.
We have Individuals with Disabilities Education Act very popularly being used across different countries in terms of sort of classifying them or making various arrangements for them in the educational system. Let us have a look. Autism, deaf blindness or hearing impairment, deafness or hearing impairment, developmental delay, emotional disturbances, intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, multiple disabilities, orthopedic disabilities, other health impairment, speech and language impairment, visual impairment, and blindness. These are definitions which are widely used across the globe. Now, if you talk of our own act, Persons with Disability Act, then you have very simple definition. It's a one sentence definitions. The persons with disability means a person suffering from not less than 40% of any disability as certified by a medical authority. Now, here the question is coming of percentage of disability. This percentage, when we refer to, are in reference to a particular country or a particular government allocating certain fund, giving certain provisions, giving certain concessions and certain facilities to a particular group of persons with disability. Now, you might be having 10% disability, I might be having 20% disability, the other person might be having 30% disability, but whenever you are talking of an act defining disability, I would better refer to a particular percentage of a disability for whom this country today can afford to give certain formats of concessions or discounts or certain provisions, special schemes and things like that. That's how every country now will have their own definition of disability, wherein depending on their finance, on their societal norms, on whatever that the country can afford for persons with special need or disability, they will have their own parameter of defining disability. Like under PWD Act, we have different definitions. We have blindness, we have low vision, we have leprosy cured, we have hearing impairment, we have locomotor disability, we have mental retardation, we have mental illness, and recently we are also hoping that the autism spectrum disorder, multiple disabilities will also be part of the PWD Act. Similarly, if you have a look at the National Trust Act, you will see that includes developmental disabilities caused due to insult to the brain and damage to central nervous system. So National Trust is taking care of only this kind of disability, which are of 4 types: autism, cerebral palsy, mental retardation, and multiple disabilities. National Trust as such has not set any percentage. However, National Trust is also dependent on the PWD Act definition, because by virtue of the PWD Act definition only the medical officers will prepare the certificate. So the categories that are covered under National Trust Act must have a medical certificate as per the PWD Act and have that percentage of disability to be covered under the National Trust Act.
So in case any parent, like maybe one of our viewers wants to avail any kind of a facility that is there for their child, a disabled child or impaired child, so child with any kind of impairment. So where should they contact first? To the nearby hospital, government hospital, or
You have two places to go for, because there are a lot of facilities that you have in the metro cities or bigger places, but as far as smaller districts are concerned, at district levels are concerned, the first advice is to seek for the district medical officer's office. Second place to seek help is the district social welfare's office. And the third place today, which is growing, and we now have over 150 such centers today, we have district disability rehabilitation centers now. So these are the three places one can try to reach for in rural places. Urban places, you have a lot of other options as well.
so these days, with the help of awareness and all these efforts done by, so there is a mental setup which is definitely changing somewhere. People are getting aware and sensitive towards people with special needs. So, and there are times when the parents are so cautious about their child that even a small behavioral problem and they might tag the child as something big. So that is also alarming. That over awareness is also causing a bit of problem. So what would you like to say for them?
You have both groups of people in our country, in terms of people those who perceive them and people those who are victims of such problems, such challenges. There would be a group of parents who would be underestimating problems, and there would be a group of parents who would be overestimating problems, and both these two are certainly problems. Basically, if you see our system of medical services or the schooling services or the social services, we do not have a system of counseling, guidance and counseling services. Apart from some NGOs operating in certain areas, you do not have a formal system of guiding parents. So the moment you do not have system of preparing parents before birth of a child, preparing parents after birth of a child, preparing parents before the child goes to a school level, certainly these two things will remain there. Overestimation or underestimation of a problem. So I do not say these parents are a problem, because in our society, whenever you have a problem, now you have normally you have parents. As a parent, you are definitely concerned about the child, and as a parent, the moment something comes up to you regarding your child, you undergo various stages. First stage would be stage of shock, then stage of denial, then stage of anger, then stage of frustration, stage of depression, stage of bargaining, and so on and so forth. Gradually you will see the stage of empowerment coming in the person, or acceptance coming in the parents. So these stages are not something which the parents is willingly taking over. These are something which are inside the psychological set of the parents. So that's how, unless you have a proper counseling format for services parent, I repeated earlier that early screening, early identification, early intervention. Now when you talk about early intervention in our country, everybody thinks it is early intervention of the child in question or the person in question. No, early intervention is today is a family based intervention. So earlier we used to call IEP, today we call IFSP, individualized family support services. So that's how there is a paradigm shift in understanding also. Similarly, when you talk of other people, so-called normal society people, perceiving them, for example, I am at IGNU today, I have two set of friends with different mindset. One set of friends is having a mindset that disabled people can't do anything. On the contrary, there is a other set which is saying these are the people who are getting so many concessions, benefits, and they are doing so well, they are able to hold much better job than us. So they are not able to accept that these people are being given so much of opportunities. So you have both people coming up. So for public awareness as well, both this aspect, like you have one corner, you have a set of people who is thinking they can't do anything. On the other hand, you have a set of people who are now taking up things the other way around, that these people are getting much more weightage, much more benefit and things like that. For them also, I think at workplace or at school, that's what I referred to a life cycle approach towards inclusion. Unless we start being with them from an early age and start working with them at a later stage, and unless we develop that kind of a mindset, we would not be able to have a healthy attitude towards people.
Sir, I have seen many people who've been working in this field, yet their mental setup is something which is not expected. They might say that yes, we're working with XYZ child with this kind of an impairment or disability, but they might at the end they might think that कितना भी कर लो बच्चा फिर भी नहीं इतना लेवल पे तो नहीं आ पाएगा. So do you think this thinking needs to be changed or it needs to be accepted?
There are 2-3 things to such a questions that we see today in professionals, those who are working with persons with disability. First thing that we have noticed, and we have a lot of research studies to prove that most of the time our professionals or special educators are at more psychological and physical distress. So the moment you are in more psychological and physical distress, definitely your work will get affected, your attitude will get affected towards your work and towards the people that you are serving. Second important parameter that we have been seeing around is lack of infrastructure and lack of facilities that these professionals ought to get. So that is one area. When you are not having proper structure, proper format of working and proper facilities where you can function, definitely that is another area where you will feel again that is affecting the attitude and the performance of the people. Third and the foremost area is satisfaction level of both professionals and the beneficiaries are low. When satisfaction level are low, awareness level are low, definitely they all become a counterproductive thing for each other. So both in-service teacher training program, in-service would mean the distance mode program that RCI offers, maybe foundation course, maybe B.Ed in special education, M.Ed special education. All the distance mode programs are mostly in-service program, and the CRE programs that RCI is offering. Similarly, all the pre-service programs, the diploma programs, BRT, DRT, or whatever programs you have, all pre-service and in-service program must realize the question that you are asking them. But people are not motivated, people are not enthusiastic, people are not ethically oriented, people are not satisfied working in the field. So if these components become part of our curriculum in service and pre-service teachers, then definitely that will have a different impact in changing the mindset of the professionals, because professionals are also not developing all these things on their own, because these things they have developed while working with the child. The second issue and the second component to this is there is a difference between working with the sensory disabilities or physical disabilities and working with the developmental disabilities. Now, curriculum for the developmental disabilities must also add these particular components also. There are limitations and there will be limitations however or whatsoever you may try, because a person with profound retardation will have significant limitation despite whatever goals you set and whatever expectation parents or the teacher or the school system might set. Similarly, you have a profound cerebral palsy with mental retardation, a multiple disabled child. You have a severe child with autism and associated with mental retardation. A lot of disabilities. You need to also understand that if the impairment is very, very severe and impairment is multiple in nature, and different kind of disability will have different limitations as well. So professionals and the parents both also need to have a understanding, a fair understanding as to what kind of limitations they would come across while working with a particular child. Once they accept that limitation and then they start working with smaller goals and smaller objectives, then they would have more of achievement in them and in the parents, and also this will have an impact on the child as well, because you are setting a goal for a child and the child is having a limitation that the child cannot achieve those goals. Child did not achieve, you felt depressed, parent felt depressed, both of your depression and your attitude got affected, and that also finally affected the child. The second time the child was able to perform something, but because of all these things combined together, the child fails in the second task also. So these things can be thought of together, and then effort can be
Definitely the vibes that we'll get will be different.
Certainly.
So we're talking about the different ways that societal setup can be changed for these people with special needs, and how things can be made different, have become different, and are different. So we're talking about our topic: definition, concept, understanding disability, impairment, and handicap, its prevalence and incidence, We'll continue our discussion after a short break. वेलकम बैक आफ्टर द ब्रेक। ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हम बात कर रहे हैं हमारे एक्सपर्ट डॉक्टर हिमांशु दास के साथ अबाउट द 3 important terms: disability, impairment and handicap. How are they different? How much does it matter whether a person falls into the category of impairment or disability or handicap? How has the society played a role in bringing up these words and tagging the different people with these kind of problems, or we may say these kind of conditions? We'll continue on this discussion. हमने अभी तक बात करी थी what is the definition, then the concept, then the types, and how National Trust and the different various acts have brought up these 3 terms in different manners. Sir, as we have moved on from the very starting कि अभी ऐसे impairment है, ऐसे disability है, ऐसे handicap है, इनकी डेफिनेशंस चेंज हुई हैं, इनके टर्म्स चेंज हुए हैं, इनके मीनिंग भी चेंज हुए हैं। इन एक जो पर्सपेक्टिव बनाया गया था वो अब पहले से काफ़ी डिफरेंट है। तो अभी क्या एक प्रेजेंट सिनेरियो क्या है?
Present scenario, technically you have to look at a slide before. Let us look at the slide. नीचे से देखने की कोशिश करें. Now हैंडीकैप का आप देखने की कोशिश करें. 1976 में क्या डेफिनेशन था और आज क्या डेफिनेशन है. 1976 में हैंडीकैप वर्ड जो था, इट वाज सोशल डिसएडवांटेज रिजल्टिंग फ्रॉम इम्पेयरमेंट एंड डिसेबिलिटी. आप में कोई इम्पेयरमेंट था जिसके वजह से आप में कोई डिसेबिलिटी आई, जिसका वजह से आप सोसाइटी के डिमांड्स मीट नहीं कर पाए, सोसाइटी आपसे जो चाहते थे वो आप कर नहीं पाए. एज ए रिजल्ट यू आर लेबल्ड एज हैविंग ए हैंडीकैप. एंड 2002 it is no longer used, as we discussed कि we are now saying disability of different function, not disability of different organs. So जब हम disability of functions की बात करेंगे, organ की बात नहीं करेंगे, तो handicap word is no longer in use today. Disability word को understanding का देखेंगे. 1976 में it was impairment in terms of functional activities. Functional activities, whatever activities we perform, every organ has got different activities to be performed functionally while dealing with day-to-day life. So you have an impairment in different functions, that is a disability as per as 1976 definition. 2002, if you see, it is the relationship between individual's health condition and external factor. It is not only the impairment. In 2002 we are saying it is not only the impairment but also different environmental functions, environmental factors, intrinsic or extrinsic environment, which are combined together to judge whether person is disabled or not. You might be having a particular disability, particular organ system problem, you are not able to have certain functions. Till 1976 I would say yes, you are disabled, but today if you ask me, I am having a problem in a particular organ system, but you cannot tell me that I am disabled unless the environmental system is supporting me. For example, in a good environment, having all the barrier-free environments, whether a sensory disability or a physical disability, the person is able to meet all the functions. When the person is able to meet all the functions, then you do not say the person is disabled as per today's definition. Now the impairment issue, it is 1976, it is abnormalities of body structure and appearance. Now if you study this properly, abnormalities of body structure and appearance, where is the intellectual component there? No. Where is the psychological component there? No. We used to talk of only about the sensory or the physical disabilities. Now in 2002, you cut across all those abnormality words. Now it is the problem in the body function or structure as a significant deviation or loss. Here deviation word, sometimes it means positive deviation, sometimes that may mean negative deviation as well. Overweight, for example, you are having lot of weight, is a overweight is a positive deviation, less weight is a negative deviation. Both these deviations, when become very significant in nature, will lead to your body function deficit. Then we will even tell that person as a having a impairment in reference to body function of overweight. Means problem in maybe mobility or problem in maybe occupation. So we will say impairment in terms of mobility or occupation for that person with more weight or the person with lesser weight or things like that. And these are changing definition with time.
Sir, so like we're talking about the various things that have changed over the time. Then what is the sequence, as the WHO says, what is the sequence? Would you like to tell our viewers about it?
Initially, the first you start with disease or abnormality, then you proceed towards the word impairment, then you proceed towards the word disability, and finally you proceed or not proceed towards the word handicap. And these are the sequence of words that has come across. However, understanding of these words have greatly differed in due course of time. Now today, lately, after 2002, now we have ICF, in International Classification of Functioning, we have UNCRPD coming up. And while you study ICF and UNCRPD, ICF is talking about only barriers and facilitators. When you have less and less barriers and more and more facilitators, then functional disability is reduced. Now in UNCRPD they are talking of right-based services, right-based society, right-based universal design. Everything is based on right of a person as a human being. Now if you give him all the rights that the person actually needs or deserves, or can demand, if you provide them all those rights as per UNCRPD, definitely most of the functional disabilities will no longer be there. So when you do not have functional disability in a person as per ICAF or as per UNCRPD Act, the moment you get rid of functional disability, it means you are talking of no handicapness, or gradually you are talking of reducing the severity of disability, or in fact there would be a time when you will talk of only impairment and no disability, no handicap at all.
So as the rules and regulations are coming up for these people, they tag that disability, people with disability can claim for so and so, people with so and so handicap can claim for this thing. One side we are thinking of just fading away of these terms, and the other side what the rules and regulations are coming up are tagging these people or giving these different their maybe their whatever they deserve from the government, they are tagging them under disability and handicap. How would you relate both these two?
It is a two aspect to understanding this thing. First of all, let us understand the difference between diagnosing a person and leveling a person. When you are today, we are talking of clinically trying to understand a person. We are trying to talk of diagnosing a person, not leveling a person. Let us be very clear about that. Second aspect, when you are trying to talk of giving certain kind of benefit or a concession to a person, it is, we are basically trying to talk of giving a level playing ground to the person. We are not trying to say giving excess benefit to a person. A person having a certain loss is entitled to a certain right. A person having a certain greater loss is entitled to a certain greater rights. That's how you are trying to compensate the loss through some level playing grounds, and not to misunderstand these level playing grounds as additional concessions, benefits, or so on and so forth. A society needs to give them societal security. You are giving societal security to old age people, you are giving societal security to street children, you are giving societal security to women, you are giving societal security to unemployed people. You have so many schemes operational for different group, not with the perspective of giving them a benefit or a concession or anything. Let us now change the outlook. Maybe those words still exist, but the outlook of understanding these things today should be, we are trying to give them a level playing ground. More disadvantaged you are, greater you are having a right to get a better level playing ground. So let us understand it that way, the way you are trying to understand the reservations that you are giving to various castes or various minority group or various scheduled tribes. The greater disadvantage the particular tribe is, more of a concessions you are trying to build in the lives of those people, so that today, tomorrow, or day after, they get a level playing ground, they compete with us, and we become an inclusive and a parallel society to each other.
So as you talk about international classification of functioning, so how do they define or they understand these three terms?
We have to look at a slide now. Let us have a look at this slide. The International Classification of Functioning, ICIF, a very niche, recent input, and this would cut across all these three terms that we are talking of, because they would grade persons with disabilities or persons with disabilities in a different format that we had been understanding till today. The document substitute terms such as impairment, disability as handicap. These three terms are no longer there in ICF as terms that indicate something missing, preventing a full function of the body. These three terms, whenever you use, there will be social psychology wherein we will think something is missing in the first person, something is wrong in the person cannot do something, some function of the body is affected. Other terms of new perspective are bodily functions, bodily structures, participation and activity, environmental factors. These are the way you are trying to now classify things. Classification, hierarchy, if you see, for example, in B, bodily structure, B1 mental functions, B11 global mental functions. Global here would mean overall mental function. Global doesn't mean here the world. This overall mental functions. B114 is orientation functions. B1142 is orientation towards others. B11420 is orientation towards oneself. Again, now if you try to study the body functions grading, for bodily functions and structures, the qualifying voice can assume the following values. So we will give certain values to the degree of loss of the function or the inability of the person to perform a particular function. 0 to 4 degree is 0 grading, no impairment at all. 5 to 24% is 1 light impairment. 25 to 49% is 2 moderate impairment. 50 to 95% is 3 serious impairment. 96 to 100% 4, 8 and 9 total impairment, and rest 2 are non-specified.
So these are the current grading that has been given by the ICF and WHO. And so similarly, if we talk about, this was the impairment, like if we move on to the disability, how has the WHO classified disability?
That we have discussed earlier before, that for them disability is today is the loss of a particular function to an extent the person is not able to perform like other persons, like other normal peers. That's a simple format of definition today. However, the component which has been added today is there must be sufficient environmental facilitators and there must be no environmental barriers. You cannot say a particular person is not having this person and this particular function and the person is disabled unless you remove the environmental barriers and accelerate the environment facilitators. So if you can have these three components going on together, then that will be as far as WHO disability. But when you talk of ICF, there is no question of disability, there is no question of handicap. At ICF we are only talking of impairment, and that too also we are talking of impairment of functions, not impairment of a person. We are talking of functional impairment in a person. That too also we are trying to grade it now under certain percentage that you have last seen before.
So we talk about the different types of, if we talk about types of disability as per the WHO guidelines, would you like to tell our viewers about that?
Okay, let us have a look at this slide. Types of disabilities as per WHO guideline. They include various physical and mental impairments that can hamper or reduce a person's ability to carry out his day-to-day activities. These impairments can be termed as disability of the person to do his or her day-to-day activities. These impairments can be termed as disability of the person to do his day-to-day activities as previously done before. Disability can be broken down into a number of broad subcategories which include the following: mobility and physically impairments, upper limb disability, lower limb disability, manual dexterity, disability in coordination with different organs of the body. Disability in mobility can be either in a born or acquired or age problem, and could also be the effect of a disease. People who have a broken bone also fall into the category of disability. Second is the spinal cord disability. I'm not going to details. Third is the head injuries, the brain disability. They can be acquired brain injury or they can be traumatic brain injury. ABI is acquired brain injury, TBI is traumatic brain injury. Then vision disability and hearing disability, cognitive or learning disabilities. And psychological disorders, they can be affective disorders, personality disorders or schizophrenia. Invisible disabilities, these are disabilities which normally the society do not perceive as disabilities, but when you talk of their limited functions, definitely these are also been classified as invisible disabilities. They can be diabetes, asthma, epilepsy, HIV, so many other such diseases which may be covered under disabilities. They are covered under invisible disabilities. Attention deficit disorders, these are again few other definitions and characteristics different given by school programming systems of different places. ADD, blindness, low vision, deafness, this we know. Chronic health impairment has also been considered in certain countries as a disability, because with chronic health impairment of a child, the child can become either of the two. Sometimes the child become homebound, sometimes the child become hospital bound. Sometimes even if the child is coming to school, the child is considered as a fragile child and is kept under a different kind of a sterile environment. So such childs are also considered sometimes as having a disability. You have developmental disabilities, learning disabilities we have covered up. Fine.
So like here we talk about the different types of disabilities that has been classified. So do you think, like, if we talk about hearing or if we talk about vision, like vision disability, do you think only the optometrist or the opticians should work? The people who can teach Braille, special educators should work? Or it should be a team that should work along with the parents, the teachers of the child? Everybody should work together, or it should be classified like first the doctors are working, then the therapists are working, and then so on and so forth?
No, earlier, before we had different models of services toward disability coming up. The first model that people used to opt was the medical model. During the medical model's time, we had people only going into the doctors, seeking their help or getting aids and appliances, surgeries and things like that. And they would remain with them, not getting any other services. Then gradually services of other professionals came into being. When you talk of, for example, visual impairment, for example, special education, the social worker, the psychologists, the orientation and mobility experts, the vocational trainers, so many type of professionals came into being, and accordingly different councils across the globe started producing professionals also to serve these people with a different set of curriculum to serve different needs of persons with disabilities. So today if you see, everybody is playing an equal role and everybody is playing a very, very significant role, and they are very, very interdependent on each other. And in case somebody says I do not work with a multidisciplinary team, that person is certainly wrong, because today, despite the fact that we are urging all our professionals to have knowledge in cross disabilities, definitely without multidisciplinary assessment, without multidisciplinary program planning, without multidisciplinary input going into a person's life, rehabilitation services cannot be considered as ethical and model services.
Even rather incomplete?
Yes, definitely. And in multidisciplinary model also, if you study the multidisciplinary models that were operational, for example 20 years back, we had a multidisciplinary model wherein the child used to go to different professionals, take help from different professionals at different period of time, and then come back home. That was the first type of multidisciplinary model we have. Then we evolved a different model. We labeled that model as a interdisciplinary model, wherein we realized that in the earlier multidisciplinary model, these professionals were not aware of what the other professionals were doing. Hence the program was not a very good program. There was overlapping, there were misunderstanding, there were contraindicatory programs going on between different professionals. In the interdisciplinary multidisciplinary team, we ensured that these professionals will know about the program of the child. Every professional will relate to each other, look into the programs of each other, look into the assessment and the programming of each other, and develop a program suitable. However, that program is independent, but that would not be a contradictory program to other professionals program, and that would in hand be complementary or supplementary to the programs of other professionals. Currently, if you see, we have again come one step ahead, and we are now advising to go in for a transdisciplinary program where there is a total cohesion of all the professionals, assessment and program planning and implementation of the program going on simultaneously in a very, very cohesive way. That's how we cannot ignore the role of multidisciplinarity.
So just now, till now rather, we've been talking about understanding the concept, definition, and the basic idea behind these three terms: impairment, disability, and handicap. The later half of our topic for today, it says that incidence and prevalence is also very much required. So what would you say? First of all, we'd like to know what is incidence and what is prevalence.
Okay, understanding it is simple. However, we do not have much of research or much of studies going on incidence and prevalence. Prevalence, to understand, is number of affected people in a particular population. You have number of people affected divided by number of population in a particular area that you are talking of, multiplied by 100 would be prevalence. So that would give you exactly like number of visually impaired population in particular district of Assam is, for example, 1000 divided by total number of population in the district multiplied by 100 would give you the prevalence. That is the percentage of persons with disabilities in a particular place. That can be a village, that can be a block, that can be a district, that can be a state, that can be a country, or that can be even done globally as well. Incidence is slightly complicated in nature. Incidence is basically a method to calculate the number of new cases. So number of new cases that for a particular period, for example, I am talking the period of 2011. So 2011 January to 2011 December, number of new visually impaired cases that has been identified in particular district is, for example, 20. So divided by total population of the district or the population whatever you are talking about, multiplied by 1000. The incidence we multiply by 1000 because sometimes the incidence is so low that multiplying by it 100 takes it into lot of decimals, which is difficult for us to comprehend and interpret and understand. So while calculating incidence, we will calculate it by 1000. So I repeat again, नंबर ऑफ न्यू केसेस, नया जो भी आपका बच्चा मिला है, डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल पॉपुलेशन ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर प्लेस, मे बी ए डिस्ट्रिक्ट, ब्लॉक और country or a state, whatever, multiplied by 1000 will be the quantity of prevalence. So prevalence is the method wherein we try to identify the new cases. Both of these has got different objectives of doing. प्रिविलेंस हम जानना इसलिए चाहते हैं कि हमें पता लगाना है कि वहाँ कितने विकलांग लोग हैं, कंपैरेटिवली उनके लिए सर्विसेज क्या क्या चाहिए होंगे, कहाँ हम सर्विसेज देंगे, कितने सर्विसेज चाहिए होगा, किस प्रकार का बजट हमें ज़रूरत पड़ेगी, ये सारे चीज़ें कैलकुलेशन करने के लिए हमें प्रिविलेंस की ज़रूरत पड़ती है. मतलब टोटल कितने विकलांग हैं एक जगह में, उसके परसेंटेज क्या है. इंसिडेंट जो चाहिए वो चाहिए हमें मोर सो फ्रॉम प्लानिंग पर्सपेक्टिव, कि हमें डिसेबिलिटी को रोकना है, बिकॉज प्रिवेंशन इज द फर्स्ट स्टेप टू अंडरस्टैंडिंग और मैनेजमेंट ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज. सो अगर प्रिवेंट करना है तो हमें इंसिडेंट्स स्टडी करना है, रीजंस फॉर इंसिडेंट स्टडी करना है, और हमें पता लगता है पर्टिकुलर एरिया में पर्टिकुलर डिसेबिलिटी बहुत ज़्यादा ग्रो कर रही है, तो इट इज़ टाइम, इट इज़ ए अलार्मिंग साइन कि आप जल्द से जल्द वहाँ इमीडिएटली प्रिवेंटिव मेजर्स शुरू करें, और यू गो इन टू डीपर स्टडीज टू नो वे क्या क्या रीजंस थे, क्या कॉज के वजह से पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंस बढ़ रही है या पर्टिकुलर इंसिडेंस घट रही है. अगर घट रही है तो इट इज़ ए गुड साइन दैट वी शुड बी हैप्पी अबाउट. बढ़ रही है तो दीज आर अलार्मिंग साइंस, वी मस्ट इंटरवीन इमीडिएटली बोथ एट मेडिकल लेवल, सोशल लेवल, कम्युनिटी लेवल, अवेयरनेस लेवल, सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ.
So like we talk about prevalence and incidence over here. Sir, do you think that people who go into the area to find out how many people come into this, कितने लोग विकलांग हैं, इनके बारे में जानने के लिए जो भी लोग जाते हैं, एक विलेज में जा रहे हैं या कहीं पे जा रहे हैं, तो अगर हम किसी एक स्पेसिफिक को बोलते हैं कि विजुअल इम्पेयरमेंट आता है, तो कुछ लोग होंगे जो एक लो विजन को उस कैटेगरी में नहीं डालेंगे, बट कुछ लोग होंगे जो उसको उस कैटेगरी में डालेंगे. तो ऐसे इनकी वजह से भी कुछ डिफरेंसेस आने के चांसेस होते हैं.
Very important question, very important and a very alarming question, कि कौन ये लोग हैं, वो कितने ट्रेन्ड हैं, वो कितने क्वालिफाइड हैं, उनको किसी विकलांगता को पहचानने की, आइडेंटिफाई करने की, डायग्नोसिस करने की कितनी क्षमता है कि वो हमें एक सही सैंपल ला सके या दे सके. नॉट टू बी कोटेड, मतलब मेरे को अब फंसाओ नहीं, बट फैक्ट यही है कि इस टाइप के जो भी आज तक सर्वे हुए हैं, कहीं भी जितने भी जगह सर्वे हुए हैं, आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ द लार्ज स्केल सर्वे. कभी कभी साइंटिस्ट और एक्सपर्ट्स और एजुकेशनिस्ट और साइकोलॉजिस्ट दे हैव डन स्मॉल सेगमेंट्स में सर्वे हुए हैं. स्मॉल सेगमेंट सर्वे में वी हैव फाउंड दैट दोज सर्वेस हैव बीन डन बाय प्रोफेशनल्स और बाय पैरा प्रोफेशनल्स or by people those who had been taken up for training in a certain training for a certain period. उनको समझाया गया है, ट्रेनिंग दिया गया है, सर्टन चेकलिस्ट दिए गए हैं, उसके बाद उन्होंने जाके किया है. बाय एंड लार्ज ये इस टाइप के रिसर्चेज जो हुए हैं वो बहुत स्मॉल पॉकेट्स में हुए हैं. बट नेशनली अगर आप देखेंगे, नॉर्मली हम लोग अपने प्राइमरी स्कूल के टीचर्स को कुछ फॉर्म्स दे के भेज देते हैं कि आप जाओ विकलांगता की आप सर्वे करके आओ ना। उनके लिए ब्लाइंडनेस तो इट इज़ वेरी इजी। लो विजन में भी किस कैटेगरी को हम विकलांगता में डालें, किस कैटेगरी को नहीं डालें। गूंगा बहरा इज वेरी फाइन, सुनाई नहीं देता है, बोलता नहीं है, इज वेरी फाइन, बट यू हैव मोर देन 80% ऑफ HI जिनको थोड़ा सुनाई देता है, थोड़ा बहुत बोल भी सकते हैं। वो कैटेगरी को उनमें से कितनों को वो रखते हैं, कितनों को वो नहीं रखते हैं, दैट बिकम वेरी वेरी सब्जेक्टिव टू द पर्सन हु इज डूइंग द सर्वे। सिमिलरली मेंटल रिटार्डेशन में भी जो बिल्कुल ही पड़ा हुआ है, कुछ नहीं आता जाता है, उसको तो उन्होंने डाल दिया मेंटल रिटार्डेशन कैटेगरी में। बाकी जो थोड़ा बहुत बातें कर सकते हैं, थोड़ा बहुत समझते हैं, उनमें से किसको रखे डिसेबिलिटी में, किसको नहीं रखे। ये सब जो पैरामीटर्स हैं, ये सब पैरामीटर्स की बहुत अच्छी डिमार्केशन हुई नहीं है। एज ए रिजल्ट वी रियली कैन नॉट डिपेंड ऑन द स्टैटिस्टिक्स दैट वी गेट फ्रॉम डिफरेंट सोर्सेज। एज ए प्रोफेशनल आई वुड लाइक टू पुट इट अप देयर।
So basically, if we are just more careful with what is happening, who's going, and how is he or she conducting the survey, that is more important for incidence and prevalence to be very accurate. So moving on from the types, concept, and understanding the three terms, we have moved on to incidence and prevalences regarding the disability, impairment, and handicap. We'll continue our topic after a short break.
कोई मुश्किल हो, दूर मंजिल हो, never stops us from dreaming. हारता है वो, हार माने जो, we are what we believe in. हम धरती को अंबर से मिला दे, हम उड़ सकते हैं, उड़कर दिखा दे, हम छू ले सितारों को। We can touch the sky, आशा के पंखों पे। We can and we will fly. We can and we will fly.
This is Aparna. She loves chess and Shah Rukh Khan. Her best friend is Swati. She also has visual impairment. This is Neeraj. He plays many instruments. He loves Mohammad Rafi and cricket. He also uses crutches for mobility. This is Raj Bala. With her husband and daughter. She loves cooking and watching TV. She also has cerebral palsy. Look beyond the disability. Look at the person.
वेलकम बैक आफ्टर द ब्रेक। ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हम बात कर रहे हैं हमारे एक्सपर्ट डॉक्टर हिमांशु दास के साथ रिगार्डिंग द टॉपिक कॉन्सेप्ट, डेफिनेशन एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग द थ्री टर्म्स डिसेबिलिटी, इम्पेयरमेंट एंड हैंडीकैप। हमने डिस्कस किया कि क्या है डेफिनेशन, कैसे इनके टाइप्स और कैसे एक मेंटल सेटअप चेंज किया गया है इन द सोसाइटी, एंड हाउ इज इट स्टिल इवॉल्विंग, स्टिल चेंजिंग एंड स्टिल अंडरस्टैंडिंग the need of these people with these three terms. अभी हम लोग ने बात करी थी incidence and prevalence के ऊपर. What is incidence and what is prevalence? Prevalence is about the different total number of new cases that come up in one total number divided by the total number of population, and incidence is about the new cases, only the new cases upon a given period of time. Now, sir, over to you regarding ki abhi what is the current scenario, what is the current statistics of prevalence and incidence in this field of disability?
First of all, we'll try to look at the definition and then go by the statistics that we have. Let us have a look at the slide. Definition of prevalence. Prevalence is the ratio of the total number of cases in the total population and is more a measure of the burden of the disease on the society. Here in our context it will be a disability. Prevalence can also be measured with respect to specific subgroup of a population. Here subgroup would mean maybe a state, maybe a district, maybe a block, maybe a school, etc. Incidence is a measure of the risk of developing some new condition within a specified period of time, although sometimes loosely expressed simply as number of new cases during time period. Now let us have a look at the 36th and 47th round of NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, Department of Statistics, Ministry of Planning and Program Implementation, Government of India report. As per them, if you look at this circle, the blue one at the top right side is the locomotor disability, 23.04. Then the maroon one, is it maroon, ma'am?
Yeah.
Maroon one, speech, 5.06. Then the green one, hearing, 8.36. Then purple, that is visual, 10.32. Then light blue, physical, 41.32. And overlapping is different disabilities coming on together. There are different other disabilities. Maybe it covers mental retardation, maybe autism, maybe other psychiatric illnesses, mental illness, so on and so forth. In the 58th round of survey of NSSO, let us have a look at the rural urban that they have surveyed. Uh, they had a huge survey of 4,828 villages in the rural area, and urban area was 3,628. However, they could complete survey only of 4,637 in the rural area and 3,354 villages in the urban area. Disability that they have got is as under. In the rural area, mental retardation, there is no needless to go by these statistics. You can get these statistics in the NSSO website. So it is needless to check on this website. We'll have a look at this particular graph. Okay, so depending on the statistics that we have seen in the last slide, so here if you can have a look at these statistics, you would see the highest number of disability is the other disability. Other disability is unspecified by the NSSO, which they have got the data that they are these persons with disability, but unfortunately the sample collectors could not specify the type of disability. Followed by the orthopedic impairment. Then rest of the disabilities are at much lower lanes, that is multiple disabilities, speech, hearing impairment, low vision, blindness, mental illness, so on and so forth. In the urban sector, also the scenery is same. Others have got a huge margin of over 25,000 persons with disability, and in the orthopedic impairment it has gone above 12,000, and rest of the disabilities are in the lower margin or below 5,000 in the urban category, that is mental retardation, mental illness, blindness, low vision, hearing impairment, speech impairment, multiple disabilities, so on and so forth.
So, just a part of an irony, maybe even after these 8 categories, the one that falls into others has the biggest graph.
That clearly indicates that our survey was a very poor survey, because which is this other category of disability? When you have highest number of population in a particular disability, you should be able to say what this particular disability is. So what I am assuming is maybe a huge lot of surveyors did fill up the form that the person is disabled, but failed to recognize which kind of disability the person is. For example, different concept of differential diagnosis is not at all there with the surveyor. They were finding it very difficult to differentiate between mental retardation, mental illness, autism, or schizophrenia, or cerebral palsy, or any of the muscular dystrophy children. Most of these locomotor impairment with different kind of symptoms which are similar to mental retardation must have been confused with mental retardation. The autism spectrum disorder must have been confused with mental retardation. That's how I strongly feel that such type of data cannot be relied upon for scientific purpose. However, for government purpose of planning, it is fine, because they were more interested into getting into know the to overall population of persons with disability. So those survey gave us a fair idea about the overall percentage of disability. However, many scientists and many other surveys, those were being conducted by different universities and different institutes, are totally contraindicatory to the survey of NSSO.
So basically, sir, if we just see the complete graph and all the incidents that has been there, though the surveys are being done, but not in the correct manner, or maybe not with the correct skills, the people who go there. So we need a change. Even if others, the graph, that the bar that falls into the category of others, government still needs a more clear view of which impairment or which disability has more number of people in our country, because others will not specify, others is generalized. So do you think we need more?
It is not about only about census of disability. Today, if you see, over 20% of birth cases in our country goes unregistered. Over 25% of our death cases goes unregistered. So similarly, you have lot of other problems in this country wherein you do not have a proper system of having accountability of their citizens. So a person born in the country, we have lot of, for example, refugees coming in from different countries staying over here. We do not have a tracking system of pulling them off. For example, if you study the northeastern region, you have lakhs of population coming in, migrating from Bangladesh, for example. So that's how you have a huge population wherein they do not have a proper identification card. Identification drive of this country only started very recently, and they are yet to issue the cards. And I really doubt, I think only about 5 to 10% people had till today gone in for that Aadhaar card, identification card. I think Aadhaar card, we call it Aadhaar card. Because when you do not have a proper system of tracking people or having a formal system of having records of each and every person of this country, then there is no question of having a proper statistical data of persons with disabilities. Similarly, you would have hospitals, for example, you have doctors, they may not be trained to identify persons with disabilities. You have Anganwadi centers, ICDS center, they are not trained to identify persons with disabilities. You may have very many small schools or primary level schools wherein the teachers may not be trained enough to identify persons with disability. That's how to get the statistics of persons with disability. It may be a very tiring job. Moreover, the process must start at panchayat level training. Panchayat level people today are getting training in very many aspects of village welfare, but I really doubt whether it is RCI or Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment or any other missions that you have, whether they ever have developed a system of even targeting these grassroots level workers, whether they are Anganwadi workers or panchayat level workers, in identification of persons with disability. That's how getting prevalence and incidence is a very huge issue in our country.
So similarly, talking about this only, there are different models and approaches that you would like to share with our viewers.
Oh yeah, first model that we used to see, for example, if you study different epics or different history or even prehistory literature, sometime we have, those were mostly divided into two components. One component was like they were very brutal to persons with disabilities. On the other side, you had people, those who opted service to the persons with disability as a charity. You come across Chanakya's literature, you come across literature on Ashoka, you come across literature on Akbar. Those things you will find there is a charity mode always going on. Missionaries started because a lot of brutalities on persons with disabilities went on across the globe. So charity model was started by many missionaries. They touched all of the globe and many parts of our country as well. So those were charity model, that the persons with disabilities needs to be cared for, needs to be supported, needs to be helped. So that kind of attitude some missionaries and some philanthropists tried to, and some kings or some bureaucrats tried to bring in those period. Gradually the system changed with development of science and technology. Gradually the medical model came in. So in the medical model, we now started talking of prevention. We started now talking of preventing disability, preventing severity of a disability. We started talking of early identification, early intervention. We started talking of surgical intervention. We started talking of assistive devices, aids and appliances, so on and so forth. This was a great leap, because medical sciences was in fact the first to enter to the field of disability sciences. In special education also, if you see, starting from Itard to Maria Montessori, all these people were basically physicians. So physicians' role was definitely very prominent. In fact, remedial teaching model in special education is also a model which is given by a doctor. So medical model dominated the field for quite a long time. However, in due course of time, every country needed to plan. Every country needed to plan services for persons with disabilities. Whether early childhood service plan, whether school services plan in inclusive setting or special setting, whether residential plan, rehabilitation plan, social security plan, or giving them concessions, benefit, HN appliances, so on and so forth, and training them for vocation, or in case they are not able to retain a vocation, and then giving them unemployment allowances or pensions or things like that. For all these, most of these countries now started with an economic model. So how they can really plan out a good economic model for persons with disabilities, wherein a balance is being maintained as to how much to spend and how much to do they can expect in return, how much support can come in, things like that. That model we talked as economic model. Then we developed a social model. Social model, that's how question of reducing handicappedness came when we wanted to opt it for social model, because the definition of handicappedness clearly states it is the social component which was making people handicapped. That's how the social model tried its best to understand the society, to understand the person with disability as a whole, to understand the community, to understand the family, and also to opt for such measures and such actions and such rehabilitation services which will bypass not the persons with disability but across all the components of the life of persons with disability. Every stakeholder of persons with disability, whether direct or indirect, will be covered under that, and intervention would not only be restrained to the persons with disability but also all the segments going on elsewhere. So that's how this social model could initiate services across the whole globe for persons with disability. However, the philosophy of service, we started with normalization, we started with anti-labeling, we started with deinstitutionalization, then we came into mainstream, we talked of integration, we talked of inclusion, so many things we talked of while delivering this social model. But unfortunately, the ultimate aim of rehabilitation of persons with disability, that was a right-based model for persons with disability, we could not achieve through the social model. And finally, with the onset of UNCRPD, ICF, and a lot of other global forums, then this new dimension, new approach came, that is the human rights model, wherein now you are trying to talk of persons with disability as a human being, and as a human being the person being has got lot of rights, and these rights in the UNCRPD, if you study properly, these rights have touched each and every aspect of the person's life, including components which were never thought of, like women with disability, including components which were thought of disadvantaged group amongst disability. Like I have a child with mental retardation in Delhi, and I also have a child with mental retardation in US. Now the child in Delhi is a disadvantaged mentally retarded child. Similarly, components like recreation and leisure, which were never earlier considered or earlier ever discussed in any of these models, but with UNCRPD, even components like recreation and leisure for persons with disability are also being addressed, because that is also a human right. So that's how these definitions, this understanding of persons with disability, understanding the concept of impairment, disability, handicap had been changing, and they will ever remain to change.
Sir, as per your thinking, as per your feeling, which of these model has been more successful?
None of this model has been successful, but however, the social model could bring in a much greater revolution than the other models, because the rest of the models were confined to the person with disability. If you study the charity model or the medical model or the economic model, those models were confined to the persons with disability. But it's only the social model which could bring in a change in terms of the society, in terms of human resource training, in terms of different acts coming up and different legislations coming up, different schemes coming up in the country. However, no persons with disabilities, empowered persons with disability, were really happy even with the social model. That's how the global demand of a right-based model had come up, and we are hopeful that this particular model would be the only successful model to serve persons with disabilities.
So today's topic: definition, concept, understanding, disability, impairment and handicap, its prevalence and incidence. After a long chat with definitions, concepts, where definition speaks that impairment is related to the psychological, biological and physiological problems in a person, disability is where the ability of the person is restricted, and handicap is where he is not able to serve the society with as per the age and the functions that a person can do. Then we moved on to what are the types of disability, what are the types of impairments as given by WHO and ICF. Then the different classification hierarchy, that how have they been trained, like the impairment takes to the disability and disability to handicap, but it all matters in our mental setup, in our thinking, how we take it for a person. Then grading of impairment, and then types of disability, how they have been categorized from the skeletal to spinal cord, head injuries and visual hearing, and all these have been defined and they've been categorized. Later we moved on to the prevalence and incidence. Though the people, they move on to different areas to do the survey and get the data collected for the government to know which disability has more people, which disability has less, and how the society needs to be changed, and regarding to what people there still lacks some skills which needs to be revised. Then we moved on to the charity model, how different approaches have been made from charity model to medical, then came economical, then social, and then the human rights model, where each person should get its own right. All these have been discussed in today's teleconference. So I would request you to give our viewers one takeaway message regarding this topic and how to handle these three terms.
You have a positive attitude towards disability as such, because once you are positive to disability, let you have vision. If you have vision, you would not see a person without vision. You see, if you have good hearing, you would not see a person with bad hearing. That's how I would like to tell you. If you develop good hearing, if you develop good vision, if you develop good intellectual ability, then you would not see all these disabilities in other people. You would see only disability in functions of other people. And as a professional, if you try your best in both way, in trying to train the person and also reducing environmental barriers and enhancing environmental facilitators, definitely even the functional limitations will also come down. Thank you.
We'd like to thank our expert for taking out time and sharing such valuable knowledge with us. Thank you so much, sir. That's all for today's teleconference. I hope you liked our show. Thank you for watching us.